Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. Today we have a pretty interesting story to talk about, and it is something I honestly really have been wanting to cover and talk about because it's something I feel pretty strongly about. And I did think it was really interesting just how all of this worked out. So Caedrel is an LEC analyst. He's honestly a guy that I'm a really big fan of. He has just a nice voice to listen to, but is also just a really high level analyst and has been a great addition to the LEC team in this split. And he's a guy who is very well liked. He's very well respected, gives good opinions. He has overall been an improvement to the LEC broadcast in so many ways. And then obviously LS is a guy who has a very big YouTube following, Twitch following, Twitter, everything. He's just a big personality. But he's very polarizing. Some people love him, some people hate him. And Caedrel, but LS also helps out with the LEC broadcast every once in a while. He's a guest occasionally, and he's just really big in the scene. Caedrel, in one of his most recent streams, shared some of his thoughts about just what he thinks of LS, and he says he's not trying to cause drama or start beef or anything like that. He's just kind of saying what he thinks and what he feels, and I did think it was really interesting. I think Caedrel makes some great points here that I think maybe some LS fans, and even LS himself, probably need to hear it, but I really think it's some stuff he already knows as well. I know a lot of the times we cover, beef and drama between players or teams or orgs or owners, but today we got a little caster drama going on, and I still think it's really fun to talk about. But before we get into that, I just want to mention real quick, you guys have not already, this is that time in the video where we take a second and smash the like button. I would appreciate it so much. We're trying to run that number up. Take a second, look at that number right now. If it's under 100, come on, do your part, smash the like button, run those numbers up. If it's over 100, hey, we hit our mark, we're good to go. You can do whatever you want from there. Also subscribe to stay up to date on all my latest content, so I would appreciate it so much. I'm trying to hit 6,500 subs here in the near future. With that being said, let's see what Caedrel has to say. This could get interesting.
LS's takes are a bit controversial. No, I'm not belittling LS here or attacking him at all, but I feel like he makes so many controversial claims that 99% of them are wrong, but then one of them is right.
So first off, I just want to stop it there. I think that is so funny. He's like, I'm not trying to belittle LS or insult him or say anything bad, but 99% of the stuff he says is wrong, and I think that's so hilarious. But I don't necessarily think it is inaccurate. Obviously, 99% is hyperbole. He's exaggerating. He does not actually mean 99% of the stuff he says is wrong, but I do completely believe that probably more often than not, LS is wrong. And I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. Even when you're an analyst, you're giving a lot of opinions. When you're live viewing, you're saying a lot of things on the spot. You're constantly getting put on the spot. And when you're tweeting as much as he does and making YouTube content, making Twitch content, and being live and just being broadcasted all the time, you are going to give a lot of bad opinions and a lot of bad takes, and that's just the nature of the beast. I mean, I have been a part of this firsthand where I make multiple YouTube videos every single day. I have hours and hours of myself talking on the internet, as does Caedrel, as does LS, and I've said some stupid stuff. I've said some stuff that, days later, weeks later, I'm like, oh man, I wish I could take that back. Oh man, I didn't, articulate that correctly. I actually meant something a little bit different, blah blah. So I don't think it's necessarily bad, to say that LS says a lot of things wrong, because I definitely believe that he does. But, some of my problem with LS is the way he says things when he's wrong, the way he talks to people very condescendingly, always talking down to people very disrespectfully. And a lot of people on LS's side will say, oh, he used to do that in the past. He doesn't do it as much anymore. And I do agree he doesn't do it as much anymore. But still, I think he does lack a lot of communication skills and stuff for a guy who claims to be, a guy for a guy who talks for a living. I really think he does go about a lot of the things the wrong way. But then also, a lot of these ideas that he just gets so hard set in his ways and hard stuck on one particular idea or whatever. I think he gets a lot of even that stuff wrong, and he doubles down and triples down and quadruples down, and then, that's fine, because if you do believe something, I believe standing up for it and fighting for it. But my problem is the parroting in the community, because he has such a big fan base on Twitch and YouTube and Twitter and everything that I already talked about. As soon as LS says something, if he really hammers it home, and especially if he says it multiple times on multiple days or in multiple streams or multiple weeks or whatever, his fan base has it all over the place, and it blows up into such a big thing where suddenly, if you disagree with that, not only are you getting attacked from LS, you're getting people on Twitter calling you dumb, people Reddit calling you dumb. Oh, LS said this, didn't you hear that? That's so stupid, blah, 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 blah. And then it just becomes this nonstop of LS's ideas just echoing all over the place, to the point where even the LEC and occasionally as well the LCS casters will start talking about that stuff as well. They are the ones who are just giving us the analysis of like whatever LS said that week sometimes, it seems. And that is one of my biggest issues I have with like the LEC broadcast. If they're friends with LS, or if they respect him as an analyst, or like things he says or whatever, I think that's fine. But once they start doing like the worship of LS stuff on the broadcast, but then also your analysts aren't analyzing things for themselves, aren't the ones coming up with the build and the macro gameplay and what's good in drafts and picks and stuff, and it just becomes this LS meme, this is what LS, like, that's where it becomes a little off-putting for me, and it just becomes really, really weird, and I don't get it. So again, I think this was very, very refreshing and very good for Caedrel to say and start standing up to a little bit, and I totally agree with what he's saying, but there's plenty more in this clip we can still get to.
And then he overhypes the fact that he's right. So for example, I don't know, the Moonstaff combo. Yes, I credit him for spotting that, great. But he said a lot of crazy other things that make no sense, like Proto Belt Nidalee, Kai'Sa's useless, Nara's a shit champ, Renekton's trash, Lee Sin was broken when FPX won Worlds, but Lee Sin's a trash champ.
So I'm glad that Caedrel, is coming from with some receipts, calling him out on some stuff, because, Caedrel the other day, and Caedrel must not, I'm sure he doesn't have a problem with LS. I'm sure they're fine colleagues, and, they work together fine and stuff, but I'm sure he does feel a lot of the ways I'm feeling, where it's just like, hold up, guys, why are we blindly, not blindly, obviously some people just agree with what he's saying and understand the reason and everything, but so many people out there blindly agree with whatever LS says, and it is like, hold up, why are we doing this? Why can we not think for ourselves to an extent? I mean, if we come to the same conclusions as LS, that is fine, but why are we not challenging ourselves to constantly be thinking of the good builds, the good strategies, what's a good pick, what's a bad pick? Caedrel tweeted at him the other day, it's like, hey, LS, you always say that Renekton is so terrible, but I think he's strong. A lot of other pro players think he's strong. He has great win rates all around the world. I'd love to have a discussion of why you think he is so bad. And, I don't know if that's ever going to happen or if that has happened or whatever. I never really heard the follow-up with that. But, Caedrel is just challenging him. And that should be okay because LS, actively challenges people every single day on, all kinds of different discussion points. And I just think in this situation, Caedrel is kind of being like a mature voice and maybe going about things the right way. And I also just think he is actually a very, very good communicator and actually get his points across very thoughtfully. Again, not that LS doesn't sometimes. Again, obviously, he streams so much, makes so much content. He has a lot of good points and he has some good ideas and he has good interactions with people and he's made friends in the scene. He has a lot of people that like him, but there's also a lot of people that really, really dislike him as well, that he's had terrible negative interactions with. Some, the other people's fault. Obviously, he has a lot of haters. He has a lot of people trying to piss him off and stuff all the time. But then a lot where he has very clearly been in the wrong and he gets upset or talks the wrong way to people. I feel like people should just, I don't know if stand up to him more is the right word, but challenge him more often. And this is something I definitely hope to continue to do in the future. And I really wish more of the community would do as well, because I really think it's getting to just a really weird point.
And even Tian was first rotating Lee Sin because of how broken it was. Like, I feel like a lot of the takes that he makes are just incorrect, but when one of them's right, it's kind of like overinflated to the point where it's like, look, I told you guys.
And LS definitely does that, and I'm sure he would even admit that as well, and I think somebody maybe even said he has admitted that before, and I think that is it's not even that bad, honestly, by LS. That is a very, very calculated thing to do. That is something that works really, really well in today's day and age in media, where if you are right about something and you let the world know and you blow it up and think, hey, this is the thing I was right about, and people are like, oh my gosh, he was so right, this is so good, oh, LS is the best, that gets people going. That'll get a lot of views, it'll get retweets, it's really sensationalizing, if that's even a word. It's something we see in like professional sports all the time, like Skip Bayless, who he is just trying to say whatever is going to fire a bunch of people up. He's going to say the most controversial, crazy thing. Every once in a while it's going to be right, and then people will be like, oh, maybe Skip's not crazy, maybe he's onto something. The same thing that like a Stephen A. Smith, people like that do. It is a tried and true formula to get a ton of eyeballs on you, and it'll get you a ton of fans, it'll get you a ton of haters, but in the end it gets you a ton of money, because people are coming to rage watch, to flame you. People are also coming because they want to defend you, and they love you, and yada 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 yada. And you have to go big. You have to go big on YouTube, Twitch, everything like that. There's so much competition out there. You're competing for the same eyeballs. So yes, LS definitely does a lot of hyperbole, a lot of overreacting, a lot of sensationalization, and that's great and that's fine. but that doesn't need to come with the demeaning, the condescending, that type of stuff also on top of it, which is something you don't necessarily get from, you know, the real life, not the real life, but the traditional sports people, because they, you know, that just wouldn't fly in that world, and esports is still a little immature in that way.
Okay. I don't know. That's my opinion.
And even here, he obviously seems a little uncomfortable even talking about this. One, because this is a guy he's going to have to work with in the future. You know, Caedrel and LS are going to have to work together, whether on the LEC broadcast or at Worlds or just other places in general. And he doesn't want to make enemies. And I'm sure he doesn't like hate LS or anything. He just, you know, wants to share his thoughts and opinions. But he knows that he does have to be careful because, yeah, I'm sure he doesn't want to get in an argument or a fight or a debate with LS or get the LS hate mob on him either, which is obviously a very, very real thing that a lot of people have to watch out for. So, you know, he does have a pretty tame take here, but in the end, I mean, yeah, he is kind of calling out LS in a way, which I think is just really funny and interesting to see, you know, some beef between casters who are potentially going to have to work together at some point in the future.
Yeah, he's a broken clock. Well, I wouldn't want to say he's a broken clock.
That's kind of a big bro. Saying he's a broken clock, you know, obviously a broken clock, the saying is a broken clock is right twice a day because eventually the hands are going to line up correctly. And that's what he's saying about LS. If you say 100 things, you know, something's going to be right eventually, which I don't agree with that. Obviously, I think LS is intelligent to an extent. He obviously knows a lot about the game, has studied the game immensely, just for tons and tons of hours. But that still does not mean that everything you say is going to be right or that you can just say outlandish, crazy things and just kind of belittle people into believing it and saying that you're correct.
Because I like LS. I think he's a nice guy. He's a great person. He's an awesome... I think LS is a really good entertainer. I think he's a really good entertainer.
He is without a doubt a great entertainer. And that is something even me, again, I'm not an LS fan. I do not like him. Me and him do not get along. We've gotten arguments and fights before, and we will probably continue to do so, especially, you know, if I'm able to continue to cement myself in this community and everything. Because, yeah, I don't like a lot of the things that he does. But he is without a doubt a great entertainer. He has done an amazing job growing his brand. He has done an amazing job making a name for himself. He's made a ton of money, and he's what a lot of people, you know, where he's at, a ton of people would love to get to that position eventually.
And I actually think that he makes really good content. The only problem that I have is a lot of his takes are just too controversial to make any sense. Okay, sometimes he's not a nice guy, obviously, because he sometimes belittles pros, sometimes like this, but everyone does that, so I won't say too much into it.
Yeah, and I did think that was funny too, because he's like, oh yeah, he's a nice guy, he's a good guy. I mean, it is definitely, you know, debatable how good of a person he is or how nice he is or whatever, but again, that's super personal stuff that you don't need to necessarily get into, but I mean, that is kind of what people have a lot of problem with, and you know, these are some of the clips that have been posted, you know, kind of giving examples of the way he's just kind of talked to people in the past, which is, you know, a little bit interesting. Again, some of these clips are older. This one's from 2019, this one's from 2020, so we'll take a look at these real quick. I just kind of wanted to use these to, you know, validate my point a little bit further.
A lot of people reference Perks roasting the YouTube video on stream with some of the most mentally impaired language I've ever fucking heard.
Like that, is that somebody who's really, I mean, it's obviously someone who's gotten very emotional and is very upset with Perks, you know, making fun of his content or his video or whatever, and it's really getting to him. He's taking it personal, he's getting very, very defensive, and then immediately getting very aggressive with very, you know, condescending, belittling, demeaning language, and that's not great. That's not a person who should be a professional kind of communicator, commentator, analyst, whatever, who's supposed to be able to use their words to debate and articulate points. He just really struggles to be able to do that, and yes, I know he likes to get in like Twitter wars and arguments with people where you have unlimited time to sit there and think and type up the perfect response. But, you know, when he's put on the spot, he does struggle to sometimes say the right things. And then here's just one more instance of that. This one, you know, this is G2 Grabs, their head coach, one of the most respected and most successful Western coaches of all time. And this is what LS has to say about him.
Push side lane. That means he should be able to find a flank. That means that...
No, it doesn't mean that he should be able to find a flank. What is the ward setups? Who are the other champions in the game? What are the other champions doing when Atrox just disappears into the fog of war? Shut the fuck up! Holy shit!
Like, see, I mean, when somebody disagrees with him or he disagrees with someone, just gets so immediately emotional, so immediately just go straight to insults and berate. Like, I don't get it. And yes, again, these are just some LS clips. People can say he's not like that anymore. People can say he's changed. People can say these are just a couple out of context clips, whatever. It's very, very consistent. I've followed him on Twitter. I've followed him on YouTube. I've watched his Twitch stream before. And yes, he is not always like this. There are sometimes where, yes, he's a nice, good person. Who isn't sometimes? The worst person in the world is a great, nice person occasionally to some people in some context. And so much of his job is, he has to be a professional. If he was like this all the time, he would never get a job ever. But, I think so often, kind of his true colors come out, and to me, it's not pretty, and that's largely why I've never really been too big of a fan of him. But, there is a couple sides to every story, and obviously Nemesis did come out in defense of him, and I thought this was a little interesting clip as well, kind of talking about the other side. I wanted to be fair. I wanted to get, somebody else's thoughts and opinions out there as well, even if I don't necessarily agree with them. And also, Nemesis is also very, very good friends with LS, so this definitely has some bias, whereas somebody like Caedrel isn't an enemy of LS. In fact, he's a colleague and a co-worker, so he should have, more good things to say. So I thought Caedrel had a more kind of unbiased viewpoint and opinion, but we'll see what Nemesis has to say.
Oh my god, dude. Like, you go to the thread and the first comment, literally the first comment to read is, I don't dislike LS, but I would enjoy his streams a lot more if he would occasionally admit that he was wrong about something. But he literally does that. Like, these people never watch his stream. They watched his stream 5 years ago, one time maybe, and then they make conclusions that he never admits that. What the fuck? How many times he admits in front of me that he's just wrong and what I'm saying is right? Like, literally, I can give you an example of like 2 days ago, where he thought that Tristana player should have broke the sleep immediately, and I said no. And then we watched the replay and he said, yeah, you're right. It's literally on the fucking YouTube video, dude. Disgusting fucking nitpicking recency bias. I don't fucking know what. Disgusting, dude.
Again, I just think this clip is really, really ironic because, again, Nemesis, again, showing to be in that kind of, LS team of mindset of going straight to insults, just like making just rude, terrible comments to people, and saying stuff like that when, yeah, you wouldn't say that to people. You wouldn't interact with people like that. That's not really a way to talk about people or to talk to people. And also the irony of somebody using hyperbole, saying that LS never admits that he's wrong. Obviously, that doesn't mean he never admits he's wrong. And using one example of, oh, LS admitted he was wrong the other day about some little thing, about one single play that happened in a game. When people say he never admits he's wrong, I assume they're mostly talking about his big ideas, his big, grandiose general ideas and statements he makes about the game or drafts or champions or whatever. Not one single situation in one game. But then also to say, oh, don't use hyperbole. He admits that he's wrong sometimes, when again, LS's content and his whole shtick is all based around hyperbole and overhyping and over-exaggerating things to, make it more sensational and get more eyeballs on him. And I don't blame Nemesis. Obviously, he's nowhere near kind of the content creator and at the level of a lot of these people. And maybe he doesn't completely understand, all the business side of everything. I don't really know. But it also seems like, people are attacking his friend. He's getting overly defensive and overly emotional. It seems like that's just kind of what their whole team does. And it's just really, really weird to me. I don't really get it. I don't know. It's weird. But, again, they're always going to have their big fan base to come kind of back them up to make them feel better. And at the end of the day, to just tell them they're right. So it really does, I guess, work out for them in the end. But I did think it was really, really interesting to hear the takes of Caedrel, a guy who has worked directly with LS and is going to have to work with them directly in the future, given his opinions, because that's not something we see very often. And I think it is something we should probably see more of, and less of just the random LS parroting by the supposed analysts who are supposed to be thinking for themselves, coming up with their own ideas in the community. We've seen people stand up to him before. Like, I'm pretty sure Mark Z, his video was about, kind of disagreeing with LS and stuff. But, yeah, people, obviously, casters aren't usually ones for drama or arguments or fighting or anything. So, thought this was a little bit spicy. Hopefully you guys did too. If you did enjoy this video, make sure you drop a like. Leave a comment down below. What do you think about this whole situation? Are you on Caedrel's side? You agree with LS more? Are you a fan of LS? Do you not like him? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions on anything we talked about in today's video. Subscribe to stay up to date on all my latest content. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace!